Hey, welcome to another edition of From the Soapbox. Firstly, I want to thank you all one and all for coming to visit, see what we have to talk about today. And what we're going to have to talk about today is rather interesting. But before we do that, let's get into the rule of four. Four. Like it. If you like the video, hit the like button. Takes a second. You don't have to pay for it. It's all free. 2, comment. Whether you're like, dislike, or indifferent, let us know. We can't grow if we don't know. I've been saying that before, and I'll say that till the very end. We cannot grow if we do not know. If there's an idea you have for a segment or a story or a topic, put it in the comments. Who knows? We may look at it, like it, and act on it. And if we do act on it, you will get credit. 3, subscribe. You're feeling what we're doing. You want to be in the know. You want to be one of those top people that have something to talk about. Hit the subscribe button. You put into our mailing list to let you know when we have upcoming shows and things. And 4, notify via the notification bell. This way, you'll be one of the first to know when we have something going live, so you'll be one of the first to listen and the first to interact and whatever else that you need to do. Those 4 things don't take a lot of time, but reap a lot of benefits and rewards down the road. So please consider doing them. And now on to today's topic, which is women don't like to listen. And before you get your panties in a bunch and start screaming about how I'm misogynist and everything else like that, there is a very good, valid, and simple explanation for what I'm about to say. And the statement I just said. And the statement I just said, once again, is women don't listen. And that, to qualify it, is today's women don't like to listen. They love to talk. They don't like listening, not so much, no. Now, what do I actually mean by don't like to listen? Very simple. I was watching, once again, there's a shameless plug and a shout out to my people at Just Pearly Things. I was watching their gray area this morning. And what I saw was a clusterfuck. There's no other word for it. You have people shouting on top of each other, 3, 4, 5 people trying to express their own viewpoints. You had one girl in there that didn't want to agree with anything anybody had to say, and they always had something about it. And it devolved into chaos. And during the chaotic exchange, Sarah Garvey, one of the hosts of the show, said, "Women don't like to listen." And of course, he immediately got pushed back, and it devolved into chaos yet again. What he was saying was interesting because it was as simple as we are. Because we as men are simple creatures. It doesn't take a lot to make us happy. It doesn't take a lot at all. The main thing we require is peace. We also require a woman who's agreeable. We also require submission. And part of submission is the act of listening. And right there, that act of listening is why so many women are not, cannot, and will never be traditional women. In any sense of the word. Because they don't like to listen. And that's such a simple, easy to understand concept. But there's a qualifier for it. There is a double standard that they like to adhere to. And that is They will hear you if it's something they either want to hear or in agreement with. They will hear you. If I started screaming from the rooftops, men are trash and women are power and everything else like that, women would hear it and respond accordingly. Women don't want to hear things that are going to hold them accountable. No woman wants to hear that. And yet, that's what they should hear, and that's what they will hear when they watch shows like mine and listen to content creators like me. And we don't do this for clicks and all that stuff like that. At least I don't. I get something in my head, I want to talk about it, I get on the podcast. I get something stuck in my head and it needs to get out. This is the best way for me to do that. So I do it. And those that don't agree with it, they don't subscribe to it, they don't want to hear it, best option, turn it off. Watch something else, do something else, go somewhere else. But no, that's not what's going to happen. That's not even close to what's going to happen. What's going to happen is that they'll listen to it, take bits and pieces that they don't agree with, and amplify those, along with their negative rhetoric. Now, things like that, they are hurtful, and they do tend to want to portray their victim in a negative light. Me, not so much. I'm old enough and grown enough to take accountability for my actions, both positive and negative, and work on them accordingly. I'm not going to allow some nameless, faceless person on the internet, because they're on the internet, because they're nameless and faceless, gives them perceived power to do so, try to disparage me. Not going to happen. Not today. Not tomorrow. Not next week, next month, next year. Not ever is that going to happen. I know my worth. I speak my truth. Let the chips fall where they may. If your feeling gets hurt, two things. Either level up or level out. Either acknowledge that you're doing wrong and take steps to correct that, or get lost in the sauce. Turn it off. Real simple. Turn it off. It doesn't take much to tear someone down. It takes more thought to build them up than it does to tear them down. So be that change. Getting back to listening, which is something far too many women find a perverse joy in not doing these days. If a man tells you something, whether he confides in you or speaks it as a matter of opinion or states it as fact, listen to it. Just listen to it. Talking to hear yourself talk is counterproductive and in the end serves no purpose. It doesn't do you any good. It doesn't do the person you're talking to any good. It does no one any good. Because all you're really doing is speaking to be heard. You're talking past them. You're talking at them. but you're not talking to them. Because when you talk to someone, you tell them something with the goal of getting a response from them. I'll say that again. When you talk to someone, you do so with the express desire of getting a response from them. Oh, I'm fine today. How are you? My ears then come up because I want to hear how they are. I want to hear what is coming next in the conversation so that I may then formulate responses and go accordingly and develop and nurture a conversation. Women don't like, let me make this perfectly clear. Modern women don't like to conversate. The art of conversation is like marriage. It is in danger of a complete and total annihilation. Modern women do not like, they do not want to conversate. They want to talk. Chatterboxes is what we're going to call it from this point forward. Talking about everything, yet saying nothing. And I don't know about you guys, but I don't have time for that. There are too many things that need to be done. Too many words that need to be said. Too many ideas that need to be expressed. For me to have to even have the desire to be part of a modern conversation. Because they're talking at me. They're talking past me. They're not worried about what I have to say. Unless it fits the narrative. If it fits the narrative, yeah, you know, girl, cause, or you know, boy, because I said, and I feel, and I. One of the things that really bothered me about today's show on Just Pearly Things was that one girl said on camera she was a side chick. And she loved him. Now later she tried to qualify and claw that stuff back, but that's not what she meant. She said what she meant. And what Maya Angelou says comes into play here. When someone tells you something the first time, believe them. If I tell you that I love milk, and then I go about later saying, but it makes me gassy, this, everything like that. That doesn't matter. My original statement was, I love milk. And even though what I said afterward completely destroys and dismantles that first fact doesn't go anywhere. It's been said. And once I hear it, I can't unhear it. So in the back of my mind is, but he said he loved milk. But he said he loved milk. But he said, so what does it mean? One of my favorite lines I can tell people is, are you lying then or are you lying now? Irrespective of what you said, are you lying, were you lying then or are you lying now? Because you're lying. I'm just trying to qualify in my brain exactly where I should disconnect from this conversation. Are you lying now or were you lying then? Real simple. Real simple. And once again, dovetailing back into the original point of the conversation is if you are listening, You don't have time to lie. Now, that is not to say that you can't lie through the very next thing that comes out your mouth. No. And some people are just liars. But when you listen to someone, you can't lie because your mouth's not moving. One of Megan Trainor's songs of her first album that resonate with me is the line says, "I know you're lying because your lips are moving." I'll say that again. I know you're lying because your lips are moving. You're speaking. And everything that comes out your mouth is a lie. That's an extreme case, yes. But it does happen. We normally associate that type of talking behavior with narcissism. I'm great, I'm wonderful, I'm good. Everybody else is just there. If I tend to notice them. And those guys also love the art of not listening because they never hear what you got to say. They're not even interested in hearing it. If I were to say, I honestly think you're a narcissist and you should get help because it's going to affect your life in this, that, and the other way. All they hear is blah, 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 blah. That's all they hear. Blah, blah, blah. And because it's blah, 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 it's not worth hearing, they don't hear it. They choose not to hear it. So they don't. Now I could just tell something that's going to save their life. Something that's going to dissuade them and save them from a boatload of hurt. But they don't want to hear it, so they don't. And then it happens anyway. And here they come back crying, I can't believe what happened to me. And I'm sitting there going, but I told you that was going to happen. Stevie Wonder could have told you that, and he's blind. I told you that was going to happen. I tried to tell you. I tried to warn you. As I said before, men are simple creatures. Women are more complex. Yin and yang. Two sides of the exact same coin. And together they make a whole. The art of conversation, as pertaining to the yin and yang, is broken. Because if one person's talking and another's not listening, no good can come of that conversation. So why bother? And that's where a lot of men find themselves. If I'm desperately trying to tell you what I need for this thing to work, and you don't hear me, why am I talking? Why are we having this conversation if I already know the outcome of the conversation? I'll save myself the heartache, save myself the headache, save myself the waste of time, and be about my business. And off I go. Now, on its face, that doesn't sound like a big deal, because you're like, oh, there's another one. There's only two things wrong with the conversation. Thing one, women outnumber men on this planet. There are more women today than they were yesterday. And the trend seems to be spiking upward. Secondly, you're up against a clock, and Father Time is undefeated. You may be able to slow it, but you will never stop it. So if you continue to dismiss, pretty soon there's going to be no one left to hear you, because no one's going to want to hear you. I've heard it before. I have statistics, data, and analysis to disprove, but they won't hear it because it doesn't fit their narrative. And that's what everything boils down to. Everybody has a narrative. Everybody has a core set of beliefs, values, opinions, and so forth that define and make who they are. There are those of us who will allow thoughts and ideas and opinions that may or may not sway you, but at least listen to it. And if it's worth enacting on, they'll enact on it. There are others who will listen to something and think, oh no, that doesn't sound right. Then there are others still that think, no, that can't be. So I won't listen. And those polar opposites, the ones that tend to listen and tend to be more reasonable in their listening and their analytical skills, and those who won't listen at all are butting heads. Insanity is the act of repeating the same procedure over and over and over again with the expectations of a different output. Quite simply, 1 plus 1. 1 plus 1, 1, 3. 1 plus 1, 6. 1 plus 1, 9. 1 plus 1, 11. 1 plus 1, 24. How are they all wrong? Okay, so let's try a different one. 2 plus 2 is the square root of the hypotenuse of the hypergitude of whatever I want to say it is. Word salad. Huh? And no. I used to believe, once upon a time, that all the things that we hold true can be questioned. Everything that we believe, everything that we feel, everything that we think we know can be called into question because statistics lie. They lie every day, depending upon the person who is interpreting those statistics. What does that have to do with what we're talking about, you may ask? If a man tells a woman that men tend to gravitate toward fit, feminine, friendly, and a woman says, not everybody, some people don't like it, my ears perk up. Because I know I'm about to hear a bunch of bullshit. Now, that person may honestly believe their bullshit. Doesn't absolve it from what it is. Your point of view shapes your reality. People like to complain about generalizations, but generalizations are pretty much because they are what society in general as a whole, have agreed upon. The set of rules, statistics, procedures, and whatever that they tend to agree on. Hence, the sky's blue. Now, for all I know, it could be green. But society says it's blue, so it must be blue. Men like fit, feminine, and friendly. You can find people that disagree with that, and can show you people that disagree with that, and show you why they disagree with that. Doesn't change what it is. It doesn't change the basic fact that that's what men prefer. And the key word there is prefer. They will settle on whatever ticks the most boxes in their wish list. Women tend to have their list boxes, but their wish list, but they tend to be more ideological than men's. Man's wish list. She's pretty. She's young. She's fertile. She's agreeable. She gives me peace. And she gives me joy. 6. Women. He's got to be 6 foot or better. He's got to have a chiseled body of an Adonis or a superhero. He has to be childless. He has to be monogamous. He has to be a hard worker. He must earn 6 figures. He must he must have 6 inches or better. He must know what he's doing in the bedroom. Now that's 8 things that a woman wants versus the 6 that a man wants. Of those 6, if a man can check off 3 or more of those boxes, he's looking at potential wife material. You could say the same thing for a woman, but there's a huge disqualifier there. And the disqualifier is hypergamy. Otherwise known as monkey branching. Now, for those who don't know, monkey branching is simply the act of a woman being with a man, and the minute she sees somebody with someone better, she'll swing to his branch. Now, you may say, well, Obi, you always saying, and other contents have always said, this thing about pair bonding. Now, pair bonding is when the man and woman have intercourse, the woman secretes a hormone that allows her to bond with her mate. And with that knowledge, you can then say, well, if a woman is monkey branching, she must not be secreting their hormone. I would say, yeah, that's true. Women tend, on and all, to not care too much about what a man has in the sense of his shoe collection, his clothing, the items in his home. Because she knows that if she can get in there, she'll change it. to better reflect her tastes. Now, Sinbad said something in one of his specials a very long time ago that always stuck to my head. When he was talking about a man and woman going out, and the man's like, "Oh, what do you think? What do you think? Show him what he's going to wear." And she goes, "I don't like that." And he says, "What's wrong with it? I met you with it." And that's true. But women look for potential so they can put their stamp on it. That's modern day women. Modern day women want clay. Well, so do men. But the difference between a man and a woman is that a man will accept a woman for what she is. Not what you become, what she is. And that is why men can turn to a woman and say, "I love you more today than the day I first met you." Because he is in love with the here and the now. Yesterday's whatever. When he's thought enough of you to commit to you, all that extraneous stuff gets left. All of it gets lost in the sauce. Where a woman will meet a guy and think, I can get him to dress like this and talk like that and say that thing, and he will be the perfect guy, and I will have built the perfect guy. Well, this isn't build a bro. No one's asking you to build anyone. No one's asking you to make someone better. If a man feels that to get better with being with a woman, he'll take those steps himself. I did. When I met my wife, I was working at a Radio Shack. And when I finally got what I figured, this ain't gonna work. I gotta get better. I gotta level up. To prove to her that I am the man that she needs and wants in her life. And I did. Now once, or probably twice, we've been talking, she would say something to the effect of, "I think you could do better than that." But I'm already ahead of her. I know that. I'm past the point of thinking, can I do better? I'm now thinking, what can I do to get better? What can I do to increase the value of myself in my woman's eyes? What can I do to level up? And you take the steps, you take the time, you reflect, you put a plan in motion, you execute that plan, and more times than not, it will get better. And your value will increase in her eyes and will increase in society. Now, you probably hear a lot of women saying, when it comes to things like divorce, that I made him what he was. And that's not true. If a man is honest with himself, he would admit that he would have got that way. He would have got to where he is regardless. It may not have been when it can happen. It may have taken a bit longer, but it would have happened. He may have hit a couple more roadblocks and snags along the way than he did with that woman, but he will get to where he's going to get to. So if you didn't do that, if you didn't make him what he was, then why do you get half? But that's a story for another day. I don't even want to talk about that right now. I want to go back once again to the art of listening. Hearing what someone has to say. We're not even talking about acting on it or even deciding if it's positive or negative in its value. Just the act of listening. Because when you act and you listen, you prove two things. The first thing you prove is you're not talking to be talking. You're talking to get to actually engage with and hold a proper conversation. The second thing that you're doing in listening is that you're showing that you are open to ideas, attitudes, and thoughts that might change a situation, and more than likely for the better. Being agreeable. You can't be disagreeable if you listen. Because if you're listening, you're probably hearing things that you didn't think of before. Things that give pause, things that make you think, wait a minute. What if they're right? Maybe I should change that. And that is a danger to most modern women, because that will lead to a very slippery slope that they may never recover from, which I call the domino effect. You know, when you play dominoes, you knock down one brick, which knocks on another, so at a train, and you get a chain reaction. That's what happens when you challenge someone's beliefs and they actually listen to you. Because if they get changed about one thought, that domino effect hits, well, what about this? Then what about this? Then what about this? Then what about this? And before you know it, you have them questioning everything about them to the point where they are shook. They face a crisis of conscience. An existential threat. I probably butchered that word, but excuse me. They feel that their one thought that they have, their one defining characteristic, is so set in stone that they can't afford for anyone to get a foothold in there to tell them otherwise. So they'll fight it tooth and nail. They will rehash tired talking points. They'll deflect. They'll give you sign language. Shame, insult, guilt, and the need to be right. Peace of Kevin Sadler, shout out, and may you rest in power. But that's what they do. That's all they got. And if you are finding yourself feeling uncomfortable about what we're talking about, or what things that I'm saying, it's time for introspection. It's time to think, what am I really? What are my values? What are my beliefs? What are my opinions? What are the things that make me, me? Is there room for improvement? And if so, how do I go about improving it? How can I be the best version of myself if this person has just shown me that I'm not? Uncomfortable thoughts, to be sure. And to say that they're reflective is the understatement of the century. I honestly think that the art of listening, real, honest to goodness listening, is an endangered species. It's on the endangered list. Now, I will go so far as to say this. tend to be a left-leaning centrist. And if you're honest with yourself, if you take a moment to really think upon what makes you you, you will come to the same conclusion. Left-leaning or right-leaning is irrelevant. You're a centrist. You're balanced. It's because balance makes things happen. Yin and yang together make a whole. There are conservative values that I'm agreeing with, like courtship, dating, and marriage. I'm conservative in my beliefs in that. Abortion, self-expression, self-love, I'm liberal. Two things can be correct at the same time. It's what I do to either prove or disprove how I feel is what makes for conversation. I just had an idea. And then in the coming days, I'm going to debut a new show. It's going to be called Change My Mind. In it, there's going to be a topic. And I'm going to throw it open to the viewers to call in and try and change it. That should make for some very interesting television, because I have some deep-rooted ideas, thoughts, beliefs, and opinions that have been formulated by decades of real-time experiences. And I'm challenging people to make the argument in the contrary, to try and sway me to their way of thinking. Now, whether they do or don't, we'll just have to see. But that's going to be interesting. I'm getting excited. I'm looking forward to that. That should be interesting. And we're coming to the end of this one, so I'm going to recap and give my final thoughts on this whole listening thing. There was a song by the New Bird in the early 70s, 70, 71, 72, that was a remake of a classic hit from the 60s, from, I think, the Stylists, I think. It was called Stop, Look, Listen. Stop what you're doing, look around you, listen to what's going on. Listen. That's all. That's all I ask. Listen. If a man is telling you his requirements for a mate, listen. If a man is telling you how he feels about a topic, listen to it. If a man is expressing his opinions on a topic, listen to him. In an ideal world, you listen and you either give him a counter argument or affirmation, whatever it takes to continue the conversation in a positive manner. But at the very least, you're listening. And when you listen, it may jar something loose in your head that you thought was a truism, that you now question. So that you can go off with your friends and you can discuss things and that they'll listen and you come to a consensus. When someone tells you, shows you what they are, believe them the first time. That's why listening is so important. I listen. I listen when you think I don't. When it looks like my gaze is outward or I'm thinking something else, I hear you. I hear every word you say. I may discount it because of my own biases. I may flat out ignore it because of my biases. But I hear you. If it's something that I'm paying attention to, not only do I hear you, but it's already formulating in my head points, counterpoints, arguments, counterarguments, statistics, data, anecdotal evidence and expressions and explanations, all that stuff is formulating in my brain. And all that's entering my brain because I listened. I chose to close this and use these. You have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. I'll say that again. You have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. Listen. And that'll just about do it for me. I want to thank everyone for giving me the time and space to pontificate on the topic. I want you all to adhere to the rule of 4. Like, comment, subscribe, notify. The rule of 4 helps us grow. The rule of 4 makes things possible and makes things happen. Want to take a step further? Consider donations. The link is in the description box below. Think about it. And until the next, this is your highly favored, humbled, and grateful host, OBJ, saying, be safe out there. Take care. And good day. See you next time.